We
All
keep
right.
all that in there.
Before Tyler Thomas decided to disappear into the woods, what we're talking about is basically what we're all kind of in a season where it's like we're trying to expand and grow in our lives. We're trying to go to that next level. I know Tyler has interviews that he's doing. Telyn, you started a new job recently. River and I are both in kind of for lack of better terms, like performance-based environments where it's like, our ability to be employed depends on the success of the company and, what we're able to do to drive revenue for the company. And it's kind of a weird time, but it's like, as we stay home, it's going to be really easy and are forced to stay home for the next 2 weeks. It's easy to kind of just settle or like put life on pause and just wait to see like what happens and wait to see how it all shakes out, and then pick up whatever's remaining and start all over again, or then continue. It's like we're just like putting our life and our careers and our personal and professional development and all the things we want to grow in life on hold while this thing figures itself out. But it's like we all know that that's not exactly like the right way to go about things. So it's like my question, I guess, for the group or for all of us is like, what are you doing to ensure that the next 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks is actually, a time of progress and like next level for your life, whatever that looks like, whether that's like professionally or like, your relationship with God or your relationship with your spouse or your friends, or just like personal development, whatever. Like, what are you guys doing to actually like grow yourself and take yourself seriously and go to that next level?
For me, I would say it came down to like asking friends to hold me accountable with Bible study. Just because I can find myself, because I'm not in my normal routine work, this is when I study, this is when I listen to worship, this is my blah, 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 right? With my faith, it's work and my TV's on in the background. And so when I'm not working, I'm watching TV when I could be reading, or when I'm not working, I'm texting or watching TikTok videos. So I find myself out of the normal right now, obviously. And I had some like, hey man, keep me accountable. Let's start a Bible study together. So we're all in this Bible plan together, and we kind of do like this where we just share thoughts about what we read. And I had when I was on lunch today, and it was super cool just diving into the Word with that I look up to as far as past go. But another thing is my relationship. We're in a challenging season because obviously we can't see each other. We don't live together. We're not married. We can't spend each night. Tyler can. So sorry, River, but we can't see each other as much because we're in quarantine. So we're challenging each other to love from a distance right now, and that's hard. But trying to ensure each other grows in a way that's like we're still being healthy. We're still trying to love on each other from a distance. Like I know that sounds weird, but like to understand how we are going to make this next 14 days work, not seeing each other, and that's difficult. But we're growing, and it's I feel like it's healthy for us to not be in that season, and this is a time for just rest. And I'm challenging her to rest a little bit, especially since she was so busy with like school. I was busy with like UD, Young Life, and work. And okay, this is time for us to just dial down a little bit and rest, but also know where we're headed after these.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think that a lot of it rides on deciding where you want to come out of this. And if you're totally cool with like, hey, I'm going to play video games and watch Netflix, and I'm going to work from home when I need to work, but I'm going to take long breaks and I'm going to sleep till 10 o'clock. And like, if you decide to do all of that, you will do that. Like nobody does that on accident, or excuse me, that can be done like pretty easily because there's very little effort that goes into it. But if you decide, hey, I want to come out of this, like Taylor and I were just talking today. So we've never been on like a good workout plan before. And we always just said like, oh, we'll go to the gym like a couple times a week. And usually we'll go Monday night and that's it. And like a lot of our schedule just gets super bogged down. And so we said, well, what's something that we could do where, hey, we've got all this time now. So we signed up for one of those like streaming service workout plans. It's 30 minutes a day and it's not a lot, but it's something to get us started. And we know that, hey, if we do this for a month, like where could we potentially come out of this weird time of we're stuck home and we're stuck not seeing other people. And so we made that decision. We're going to commit to this because we know that if we did make the decision to do it, then, and we kind of lay out the framework for it, like nobody gets physically fit on accident. Nobody ends up in a good financial place on accident. Nobody advances in their career on accident. It's a developed commitment to here's where I want to end up and here's the steps I need to take to get there. So for right now, we've decided like, hey, we want to be like more physically active, which is kind of the antithesis of where the season is right now. For me, I've decided like, hey, I want to be more committed to my job and more committed to my career advancement. So what does that look like? The work that I need to put in now. We've decided we want to eat healthier. What does that mean now? For us, finances has been a big thing for the last year. But what does that look like to continue taking a step forward, especially in a time that's really scary to talk about finances? So it's like all of these things and all these moving pieces, and we want to be focusing on individual ones. But a lot of it just comes down to where do we want to end up when we come out of this? So.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with that is like you mentioned something earlier that nothing is by accident in that sense, and it's like a friend of mine in college would always say your actions reflect your intentions, and it's like a lot of us think that we have really good intentions, but the results of our lives or the action within our lives don't reflect it. And so it's like if we want to have, for lack of better terms, better intentions, we have to have boundaries. So we have to have actual, structure around what we're thinking and what we're saying and the actions that we're planning on taking, because otherwise it's not going to work. So like for me in this season, my goal is to reduce my screen time on my phone by 30%, which is in hindsight just be on Instagram for an hour less a day, because I'm on like social media and like social media apps for like 3 or 4 hours a day. And that doesn't even like, I never walk away from the end of the day and think, or like go to bed at night and think I was on social media for 4 hours. It feels like, wow, maybe like 30 minutes. I don't know, because I'm busy. I've got so much other stuff to do, but then at the end of the day, 4 hours. So like a boundary that I'm setting is I've removed Instagram from my phone every day, every morning I do until I'm done with work. Then I'll actually allow myself to like, because I'm not going to sit at home for 6 to 8 hours a day every day, because that's what I literally have to do, and not want to be on Instagram. So I download it every day at the end of the day, but it's a boundary that I've set in place. So in order to enable myself to have the success that I want and essentially see the actions and the results that reflect my supposed intentions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. You like River? What about you? Like you've got a job that has some pretty flex hours around it, and it's like and pretty flexible schedule, and it sounds pretty fun. You were playing freaking Warzone today. Like, what are you doing to kind of to challenge yourself, and boundaries are you putting in place to like really stretch yourself and make the season actually worthwhile?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of cheating a little bit, whereas like we're still going in the office because our office is at his house. So I'm still going in and like seeing him every day and like still working with him. But yeah, it's different, definitely, because like our other coworker did like temporarily get laid off. So I'm taking over her position like as a fill-in. So I mean, that's definitely a push for me, is like doing 2 different jobs.
Added work, yeah,
added work. But then also like just like making sure that we're like still like pushing, like, because in a time like this, like it'd be really easy for us to like throw our hands up and just be like, well, we're not going to get sales because no one wants to buy silicone koozies for drinks in the time of recession. But like every day, like we kind of challenge ourselves. I mean, it's true. Like it's not the first thing I would think of, but we've just been challenging ourselves to like find new ways. Like literally today, we were going through our abandoned carts and texting them personally from our phones and like saying like, hey, saw you abandon this cart. what can we do to like get this transaction going, or we were looking into text marketing and like just stuff like that, like just really off the wall like ideas that like literally worked. Like we got 3 sales out of texting people personally. We only texted like 6. So I mean 3 for 6 is a great conversion. But it was just stuff like that. Like we're just constantly like thinking of like what we can do, even in a time where like we could easily be like, well, let's kind of just coast and just hope we make it through it. But we're actively challenging each other to like really press in and try to find ways that we can still grow in this time.
Yeah.
But
well, it's that aspect of not settling to allow this season to happen to you, but happening to it, and being intentional about that. So it's like, I'm going to go out and get aggressive in pursuing that next level. You know, I can't think of how many of my friends are going to, you know, get unhealthy, get even less healthy, or, you know, break all of their habits, or, you know, whatever, and blame it on a virus, when it's like, no, you had 2 weeks to literally perfect your craft, or you had 4 weeks to literally perfect your craft and get excellent at it. Like, none of us have any excuse to not be physically active every day. It's like, well, the gyms are closed, and what's your point? Like Gary Vee, this dude I love to follow on Instagram, like his big thing is just like, and he's like, you got laid off, and he's like, you had the worst day of your life, and he's like, what's your point? He's like, there's so many other people out there that have it worse than you that are doing more than you. So like, what's your excuse? He's like, you don't have a gym, and you can't go outside, and you can't do this, and like, what's your point? And I love that, because it's like, all of us have so many excuses at hand that we could use, and we'd all probably validate each other in our excuses. But at the end of the day, it's like, if we want to grow, if we want to go to that next level in our lives, we've just been gifted, you know, a minimum of 2 weeks to live at home, not go anywhere, not get distracted by going out and hanging out with your friends at all times, and being gifted the opportunity to hone in on those crafts, hone in on those skill sets, or hone in on those disciplines and habits, and come out on the other end of it absolutely excellent at those things, which I think is so cool.
Oh, for sure. I think like you said, like the and thing, and like it does really push you to like think like, and like I think at a time like this too, like it's easy for us to throw our hands up, or like just like be like kind of thrown off by it, but like there's still much worse situations in this world during this virus. Like
totally,
there's third world countries that have to go through this. Like for us, sitting at home, and like even from a student perspective, like it kind of sucks, but like you still have Instagram and Netflix or whatever, like to even like just coast through. But like there's people like in third world countries that literally are getting hit by this, and it's way worse scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me transition. Yeah, let me transition a little bit and ask kind of a question. And one of the things that I was kind of thinking about, and I can kind of share a little bit about this later, but I want to hear from you guys. What is something that you are taking right now to be like a purpose for your life, or something that should be a focus point in your life, like something specifically?
Telyn?
Like, are you talking in what aspect?
I guess I don't understand. I don't understand the question.
Are you talking about like when rubber hits the road? Like, what are we doing to actually progress? Like, what actions are we taking?
Okay, so let me set this up, because I went through kind of this thing recently where I had this conversation, and we got into this subject. So there's this Japanese word called ikigai. And it's supposed to be what drives you to get out of bed in the morning. What is the purpose for what your day is going to be? And it's kind of this intersection of all of these different pieces of our life.
Yeah.
It's what we love. It's what are we good at. It's what we can be paid for, and what the world needs. And so in between that, kind of like this Venn diagram overlapping, is passion, mission, vocation, and profession, and different things that kind of filter in. What, in terms of something that you love, or something that you're good at, or something that you are doing professionally, or even more so, something that is really relevant that the world desperately needs right now. What is something that you feel like is driving purpose in your life to add value somewhere?
Yeah, so I think for me, the season is kind of unique, because it's like, I like the term that you used, overlap, and it's, in my job, what I focus on all the time in talking to people is a focus on the overlap. I work with people and I help them find jobs. So I talk to them when they're looking for a new job and I help connect them to that opportunity. And I always talk to them, it's like, focus on the overlap. Okay, here's you and all that you are. Here's the opportunity that you're pursuing. And then there's a middle ground. There's that overlap right in the middle. And I think for me, when I think about this season, what I'm looking for is like that perfect opportunity. I'm looking for that bullseye. I'm looking for that, like, this is exactly what I'm, looking for. But at the same time, I'm never going to find that perfect opportunity. I've always wanted to become healthier or become more devoted here, or more consistent here. And so, I'm looking for the perfect fitness routine, the perfect daily morning routine. I'm looking for the perfect whatever, and I'm never going to find it. But there is going to be some overlap. And so I think for me, what's driving me to get out of bed this morning is an opportunity to close the gap, is an opportunity for me to align who I want to be and who I am right now and get them closer together. And it's like, especially right now with this whole quarantine thing, I'm used to spending an hour to an hour and 30 minutes a morning just getting to work, just my drive time. So I usually get up at like 5:15 and then I'm at work at like 7:30, 7:45. So I've got 2 hours in the morning now of my life that's given back to me to close the gap. And so when I wake up in the morning, I've got two options. I've got, I can stay in bed, or I can, like you said, ikigai, right? I can find the drive inside to get out of bed with passion, with purpose, with intentionality, and go become that best version of myself. And that best version of myself will literally enhance every other aspect of my life, professionally, personally, relationally, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. All the leads possible will now get enhanced in my life because I was intentional with that morning, or I was intentional with pursuing the better version of myself. And so I think the short story long is basically that, my ikigai is just the opportunity to be better. And the fact that I have that blessing and that time given to me, for the next X amount of time to do so completely uninterrupted, with no excuses, no barriers. Here it is. If you really want it, here's your chance.
Yeah, for sure.
I think for me, I like what you said, being intentional with, the opportunity you have now.
Yeah.
The next few weeks free. And essentially for me, I wouldn't call it free. I would say I'm from bed, from work to, and then checking in with students and checking in with friends and doing panels. And I say the better me, the time that I have. And I think that is such a key word. You want to be intentional with the time you have. For me, is coming out of like creating habits I didn't have before. With gymming, like we just got weights in our garage. So as I say I want to be healthy, I'm actually putting that into place by hitting the gym in my garage, because I'm actually able to lift weights because there's nothing else to do, right? So like how that habit sticks, and I'm being intentional with making sure I'm picking up weights. Once everything opens back up, I'm like, oh, dude, I should probably go to the gym now, And so being intentional with making sure I'm bettering myself every morning, getting my job done, even though I'm from home, so it's action, and touching some kind of weights every day. Whether I'm in there 10 to 20 minutes, making sure I'm getting my heart rate up every day is huge for me in this season.
Yeah, for me, I guess like my thing has always been like just the challenge of like something new. So like I've always loved like stepping into something new, whether it be like career wise or like spiritually or anything. Like just getting that like challenge of like, can I learn this thing and can I master it? Like stepping into my new job, like I never really did marketing before. Like obviously I'm good with talking to people, but like I kind of had to like come into this and learn it really quick and like prove myself. And like it's same with like right now, like I'm doing now all the customer service and fulfillment of our company, and like having to learn that and like kind of just perform as fast as I can, because it is a fast moving thing. Like we get orders every day, or we get customer service every day, so I have to learn all that, but also like still doing my job of like doing marketing and doing all that on the side, like, but just like getting all that and mastering it like as quick as I can, but also like learning it and like the challenge of like learning something new. Same with like the season for the church, like obviously everything's online and like helping as much as I can and learning as much new as I can, like whether it be editing podcasts or video or doing like just brainstorming ideas and like just I like the challenge of thinking of new things and like how can I learn it and how can I master it. And that's kind of like how I've done everything. Like literally I got my job from a Twitter DM that I was like, hey, I could do this. Like if you put some trust in me. And like I literally went into it not knowing and I learned and mastered it. And now I'm in the position that I am. But like it all comes from like wanting to be it, like just getting that challenge and like believing that I can figure it out. And that's like what really pushes me forward and everything.
Well, yeah, and in touching back to like kind of what Telyn said, it's like, you know, when the gym is open back up, he'll naturally think to himself like, oh, maybe I should do that. Like there's an opportunity to go to that next level. But it's, you know, when your intentions and your actions are aligned well, and you truly have intentions that are out best for yourself, you're going to make you're going to take any opportunity you can to even slightly pursue it. When you do any traveling internationally, especially to developing nations, you're going to see kids playing soccer with not soccer balls. It's going to be, whether it's a ball of trash, a ball of plastic bags, whatever, anything they can get their hands on to sort of kind of maybe resemble what they want and that end goal and that final destination, they're going to do. You look at some of the greatest, soccer players in the world, they didn't grow up playing with, little tiny actual soccer balls. They grew up with makeshift opportunities, but they took advantage of it, and look where they've come from. And so it's like, it's the same thing when I think of like when Alyssa and I first got married. Alyssa's a massive cook. She's phenomenal at it. And I had the jankiest like kitchen set on the planet, yet she was still like throwing together killer meals. So our first Christmas together, I bought her a nice like pots and pan set, which I was thinking like, I'll go to Costco, I'll be good to go. I'll get like a $30 set. She'll be so pumped. Quite the contrary. I went to Williams-Sonoma. I spent way too much money. But when she finally got the opportunity for the upgraded tools or the upgraded opportunity or the upgraded level of production, it was like, oh, she was ready for this moment. She didn't have to like, get a pamphlet or like figure out what everything was. She had already practiced and rehearsed that opportunity in their mind. So by the time the new level or the new tool came available, it was like done. And I think sometimes for us, we wait for the perfect opportunity. We wait for the really nice gym that opens up, that gives us a free year of membership and holds our hand walking into it every day. We wait for our run times to be better before we start running. That doesn't work. We wait for us to be healthier or for us to make more money or for all these perfect circumstances to even engage with it. It's like Tyler just, finished paying off all of his student loans and all debt. And he posted about that on social media. So that's why I'm talking about it. But it's like Tyler didn't wait to be debt-free to start living in a debt-free mentality and a debt-free type of approach to finances. Tyler was like, cool, I've got a ton of debt, student loans and whatnot I don't want anymore. And because I want to live debt-free, I'm going to start practicing the habits that I want to be about. And so it's going to take a lot of work. But now that Tyler's actually debt-free, he's already got the systems and the rhythm in place to go to that next level now that this new tool or this new opportunity or new level is available. And it's like, I think for me, like I wait for the perfect opportunity and the perfect timeline and the perfect everything to go to that next level in my faith. I wait for the worship night. I wait for the really good message. I wait for that moment where the Holy Spirit just hits me and I get the goosebumps, right? That ain't real. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like if I want to go to the next level in my faith, I've got to be faithful and diligent with the season I'm in right now and be leaning into the season I'm in right now. So by the time that next level does become available, I'm ready, I'm prepared, and I'm like hungry for it. And I'm like running after it. So I think from like a spiritual perspective, what are you guys doing right now to like take your faith to the next level? And not just like, oh, I'm doing my daily devos every day, but really like leaning into your faith and like making it so that at the end of this quarantine, like I am closer to God than I've been in a fat minute or than ever. And it's because I was intentional and not because I just read my devos every morning and I watched the IGTV with, a leader doing his daily devos. I like leaned into it. I pressed in. I prayed fervently. But like, what are you guys doing to like take your faith to that next level, if anything, right now? Or what do you plan on doing?
It's funny. I was just, as you were kind of talking and leading into that, going to the next level, it got me thinking about how often we allow excuses to like infiltrate what we're trying to accomplish. So when we were doing Financial Peace University, right before we started that program, I started giving for the first time. I've never really tithed consistently in my life. And I've grown up in the church, but I wasn't raised with this mentality of like, here's what you need to do. My parents like gave, and they were very generous, but it wasn't like something that I had ingrained in my head right away. And so, but in my mindset, it was always like, okay, well, someday I'll get to that point where I can be generous. But if you always tell yourself that, well, when I have this much amount of money, then I can start giving, you probably will never hit that point, because if you're going to delay the
100% true,
the plateau, and it's just going to be these constant, it's like going on a hike and like getting to the top of a switchback and you think you've reached the top, and then you realize, oh, there's this next thing that I want to go do now. And it's always going to delay some of those things that you put in your life. Or whenever I get sick, I've noticed this recently. Anytime I get a cold, I'll get a cold and I'll feel terrible. I'll be on my couch and I'll just be like, oh, I feel awful. Oh, I'd love to go work out right now, but I know I can't because I'm sick. And so what I'll tell myself is like, oh, once I'm healthy and like once I'm better, I can start working out again. But I would only have that mentality of
when you're sick,
like when I'm sick. And so I think just not allowing the excuses to get in the way. The best part about it is right now, and I shared this on the leader panel the other day, we have no excuse to not dig into devotions, to not be practicing like practical ways to put our like faith into practice, because one, we have more time than we've ever wanted probably in our lives, or many of us probably don't know what to do with some of our time now. But two, like everything has to be so intentional about how we interact with people, or how we can't just say, I'm sharing the gospel, because sharing the gospel, I can't do it if I'm just in my apartment all day.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can, but I can't do it where I can say like, oh yeah, if the situation arises, like I can approach that, which I think is the excuse a lot of us use sometimes. We're like, oh, I just want to be a good person. And like, if somebody asks me, hey, I want you to tell me about Jesus and tell me about faith and tell me everything that I need to know, that opportunity doesn't present itself very often. And so, but a lot of times it comes from us being willing to have that dialogue. And so right now it's a lot more, we have to be proactive in knowing that we're going to do that. And that's hard, because you want to toe that line of, I want to have those conversations on a natural level where I can speak into those people's lives because I already have that relationship. But I think it's just finding that spot of, hey, what is again, going back to what I said earlier, how do I want to come out of this? And if I want to come out in a place where I know that my faith is going to be stronger, then I need to put in the work now and set realistic goals that I can meet, which a lot of those goals should be pretty easy to meet, because again, we have more time than we know what to do with. So.
Yeah, I think for my life too, it's the same thing. It's like we literally have no excuse. There's not a single aspect of my faith that I have any excuse for lacking in. Whether it's devos, whether it's a prayer life, whether it's engaging, whether it's River waving at his green screen, whatever it might be, we have no excuse. Like we have no excuse. What do you think, River?
We've caught me off guard. Yeah, I think it's a
work from home life.
Well, I'm not working from home though, so I'm the only one here. But I mean, my work is still really chill. Like as you said, like I'm playing Warzone.
Don't you live like 10 minutes from your work?
Yeah, I mean, my commute's like 15 minutes every morning.
Yeah, he like crawls.
No, I mean, there's construction on my road. You've seen it. Like, I get stopped.
Hey, dude, that's whack. That construction is whack.
The construction sucks, dude. But yeah, I mean, it's the time after the work that I have a lot of free time right now. Like, I literally have nowhere to go. Like, I can't be like, yo, Matthew or Tanner, like, you want to hang out? Like, I can't. I mean, I could ask if they want to play video games, but like it's only like so much of that you can do. So I mean, like I'm definitely being pushed, and like as I said, like just doing stuff for the church, or like getting into my devos more, or what podcast can I listen to now that like there's a new podcast that I'm listening to that's a church one, like just stuff like that I can lean into, that like with all this time, like what can I do to better myself? And that doesn't have to be like in a spiritual way for everyone. Like you, obviously, like that's one thing to lean into, but like you can lean into like what I like that Gary Vee was talking about, like what side hustle can I lean into now? Because like I have all this time, like maybe you don't start it now, but you do all the research and the groundwork now. So when you do get back to this point of like we're out of recession, like how are you going to activate that like passion of yours? And I really like that. Like it's good. Like if you have a side hustle, like do all the groundwork now. Like think of your idea and like totally flesh it out, and like ask your friends, because you can get on a Zoom call right now and ask all your friends about it, and like figure out those things. And like, or it's like I suck at doing chores without being asked. Like maybe now like you hunker down and like I'm gonna do the dishes every day when I at this time, or like whatever. Like I think there's a lot of things that we could practically do, and like even for me, like like doing devos, like I'm now waking up on time, and like I have nothing else to do, so I can't stay up late, like so I'm going to bed on time and like waking up and doing devos and just resyncing myself. And I think it's a lot of good time for everyone to resync themselves.
Yeah. Telyn?
I think for me, I've learned how much I suck at my phone. Texting people back, calling people, checking in with people, unless like I felt like it was super important. Like I can't, and it sucks. It's sad. I can't give you the last time I called my grandfather more times in a row than the last 2 or 3 days, right? So I suck on my phone, and I'm realizing that things are becoming more important to me now because of what's happening, and that sucks. But it is a good reminder to know that, like, hey, Telyn, this is who you say you are. Jump back into what you say you're going to do. Use your resources. So there's pastors going on live every night, whether they're telling jokes or being serious or they're giving a good word. There's resources out there, and I say you either pick up your resources and use them, or you're going to come out of this the same way you were when it started. So you're going to use this 2 weeks for nothing. So for me, I've just been using my resources. I've been, like I said, jumping into my devos with the group of guys I have, and then checking in with my family, praying for my family, making sure my family's good, checking in with my friends, doing Zoom meetings and podcasts, like make sure that what I am going to do in the season that I'm in right now with this 2 weeks or however long we have, that when I'm out of it, the same thing is going to happen, if not better, because I'm learning to use my resource right now. And I think that's super huge.
We've all been in like church services and had, or summer camps or conferences, or good conversations or whatever, or worship moments in our car, or just times by ourselves where we've been like, oh, I'm gonna you're feeling the presence of God and you're so jazzed and you're so pumped to like make that change, and you're gonna stop doing this, you're gonna start doing this, you're gonna leave that addiction behind, you're gonna stop looking at that, you're gonna stop saying this, listen, you're gonna stop all these things, and you're going to start, and you're going to never not read your Bible again. You're going to spend 2 hours a day in worship. And it's like this moment where like everything's going to change right now. And then what happens literally the next day or within the following week, you're right back to where you were. And it's as if that moment was literally just a moment. It was just a small sliver of time where it's like you can't even tap into that moment if you wanted to. None of those habits have stuck. None of those changes have happened. And that feeling that you felt, that moment that you experienced, is all but a thought that you can look back on if you want to. And it's like, how do we go from that to, actual permanent implementation and change in our lives? And it's like this, if we're not careful, this whole quarantine thing will be the same. It'll just be a glorified 2 weeks version of it, where it's like, for the next 2 weeks, we're like daily devos and like living up our lives, and we're, being active, and we're growing in our faith, and we're praying every morning, and, our commute time to our couch is just so good, and we're just sipping our coffee and making the pour overs, and like everything's perfect. But then like, oh snap, okay, I'm back to work. Now I got to get up at 5:30, and I'm not even going to be in the office for 2 hours. And now I got, now I got to like get up and shower, get dressed, do my hair, put actual pants on, like, I got to do the whole thing. And now it's the real challenge. Like, we think this is hard. Try like implementing any one of these habits into a real schedule with real challenges. I was listening to a podcast today, and the person was just like, yeah, I saw my therapist recently, and I was telling him how, like, last time we spoke, none of the things that we talked about are relevant anymore because I've got such great perspective now. And I'm like, oh, that's funny. Give it 3 weeks. I promise you're going to be complaining about the same things all over again. So it's like, how do we close the gap between I don't want to say hyper spirituality, but like, kind of these momentary spirituality or in the moment spirituality? How do we close the gap between those moments and actual like spiritual reality, right? Like spiritual, like true living that out in our real lives. Like how do we close the gap? Like how do we bring those two things into alignment to where the moment that we have with God, or the season that we have right now for the next 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks of ability and time to press into our faith, how do we take those habits or take those moments and bring them into our real life post-virus, post-apocalypse, post-quarantine life, into back to the full swing, back to hanging out with people, back to living our normal lives? Like how do you guys plan on closing that gap?
I think that I think we have to take the focus off of sensationalizing the outcome, and more so, what does the process of actually digging into that look like? So
that's good, yeah.
When I think about my current workout goal and what I want, when Taylor and I at 3:00, because we've been doing it at 3:00 every day, when we turn on our TV and I turn on and I see Sean T standing right there, just absolutely ripped, I think, gosh, wow, how cool it would be when I look like that someday. And what I've realized is that if I constantly just set my mindset on hey, this is what I like want to be, it almost discourages me in the moment for saying like a daily routine that it's not driven just towards this outcome, but it's being in this routine that's going to establish a lifestyle, and not just an image or an outcome that I see in my head, but the principles that I want to dig into and set my life on. We're going through our finance class, like we told ourselves that like, hey, I remember thinking like, how cool would it be like if I just won the lottery and I could pay off my student loans and we could buy this nice house and all this stuff. But if you do that, like, yeah, you get the outcome, but you did it without doing the work. And so
you rob yourself in the process.
Exactly. And so if we're going to dig into our faith and say, hey, look, when I hopefully in a month from now or a couple of months from now, I'm able to leave my apartment again and kind of enter a normal lifestyle. It's not so much about envisioning, me when I leave that place is going to be so much more spiritual and I can be really excited about that. It's me being excited about, hey, I've got all of these different verses and all of these different daily thoughts that I can build up. And it's not just, I can say I read the whole Bible over this time, or, I could say I read all of these books, but it's saying that like, look at all of this knowledge that I gained along the way, and making that the focus of what's going to make me
a great point.
So
100%.
Aside from like your trust in God and making him like the forefront of it all, I'd say it starts with you, and having the focus and consistency of what you want. And once you build that, especially in this time off, like first we and we're going to talk about that multiple times, even after this podcast drops. And you'll probably hear it 15 more times how much time we have. It starts with you. It starts with the time you have, and it starts consistent with what you want. So you got to figure out what it is, whether that you sit down and you write out a plan on what you want for the next 2 weeks. It's going to work for you. And then how are you going to be consistent with that from here on out? So it's like hey, this is what I want for the next weeks. It's like, this is what I want my life here on out. and this is how I'm going to implement it the next 2 weeks, and then build a habit into that. So for me, talking with Ed Holmes, who's the greatest fitness in my life right now, trying to figure out like how to build a plan and the circumstances I'm in. Like, hey, dude, what do I need to do? And he posts these garage workouts, and I'm like, dude, I can get in my garage and work out too. Like, I'm gonna be consistent in that. And I make excuses over and over and over again. Like, once I make more money, I can afford to pay for CrossFit because CrossFit's stupid expensive. Or once I lose a little bit of weight, I'll finally get back in the gym because my body can't handle that. It's like, what? Like, what excuses are you making right now, dude? Like, get there and figure it out. Be consistent. So what I'm doing right now is being consistent with making sure I touch weights at a sweatshirt. And I'm being consistent in that because I have to make that when I'm out of this, I'm building a plan that is going to continue to work. It's a habit that's going to continue to work. And when I get stuck, I remember, this is the consistency I started. This is the plan I wrote down. We've got to stick to this one. So it starts with the plan you have and the consistency to have the habit of being better in this season. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry.
That's good. Oh, but yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think what Telyn hit on too is like he's asking Ed or like asking someone in front of him, and same with like Tyler and his wife. Like they went to Dave Ramsey's course, and like I think finding someone ahead of you is also a big thing in keeping consistency.
So
like,
true, 100%.
And like, and finding someone who like can help you instill that plan, because like like as Cameron said, you can get that moment where in your worship you're like, I'm gonna change X Y Z X Y Z X Y Z, but like then when you get to like it's too much. Like it's just like you put all these things together and you're like, I'm gonna change what I say, I'm gonna change what I watch, I'm gonna change, like I'm gonna do devos, I'm gonna do this. But then when you don't have that plan or you don't know what that looks like, it gets really challenging and you kind of fall back into that. But if you go to someone like, you go to Cameron, Tyler, Telyn, or me, or Taylor, or anyone else, and like ask like, what can I do? But then also having them like hold you can like consistent to it. Like I know Telyn talks to Ed a lot about fitness, and Ed also probably reaches out and is like, hey, how are you doing? Because he cares and like actually wants him to like be consistent in it. And I think Ed also shared like a great one where like he even went to writing a $500 check to his ex if he didn't complete one of his goals. So like there's different ways, but like I think like doing it by yourself is like the worst way, because that's when you can let those excuses like really sink in. And you're like, well, once I have more time since school's back, I'll do devos. Like once the summer hits, but then the summer hits and you're busy. But if you're like, well, I'm gonna get to Lynn and ask him like, how do you do it, and then also stay consistent with Telyn, it gets a lot easier because then you're having that accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what comes to mind for me is like, if you've ever seen, there's that video of that kid that got in trouble by his aunt, and he's like, or his mom or whatever, and he's like, Linda, listen, Linda, listen. He's like that little kid that had like stolen something or whatever. He's like, Linda, listen. And I just think of too, like when I was a kid and I used to get like a SWAT or whatever, I'd be like, wait, hold up, wait, no, like let me stop and explain something. Like we're like afraid of the pending doom, and so we'll do anything to like get our hand back and like stop the process. And it's like, yo, the pain's inevitable.
Double sweats.
Inevitable. Yeah. Or like put your hands out, like it's just like in life we've got these areas of our lives that we want to grow in, but we're afraid of the pain or we're nervous of the punishment, so to speak, and we'll do anything to talk our way out of it or to sound like we're just in process of like getting things together. It's just like, oh, it's like you ever talk to that person that like hasn't had a job in like a year, or they're just bumming through life right now, and they're like, what have you been up to? It's like, oh, I've got like this thing I'm working on, and I'm just kind of, I'm doing this, and I'm waiting for that one thing to come together, and I'm waiting for this person to leave so then I can, or I'm waiting for this, and it's always somebody else's fault. Their lack of initiative for something is, or their lack of beginning the process is always on something else. And it's like, I think sometimes we psych ourselves out. We're like, oh, well, what I need to do is I need to find like the right Bible plan, or I need to find like those like 6-7 good like banger worship songs that I can just like soak in the Lord for like an hour first. Then I can do the right deal. Then I can, and we try and like perfect the process before we even start it. And it's like, sometimes I think all what we need is just like, I'm just going to like open my Bible. I'm going to flip to a page. I'm just going to like read that. Like, I'm going to read a page, or I'm going to put on, you know, Spirit 105.3, as god awful as it is, and I'm just going to listen to 2 songs. And it's like, just anything, just do something. It's like when I started running again, it was like almost a year ago to the day. And I was thinking like, I do not want to do this. I got to the end of my block, which is literally less than 1/10 of a mile. I turned around and I walked home. And then I was about to walk in the door, and I was just like, if I ever want to grow, if I ever want to be healthy, if I ever want any form of progress, I just got to go for it. So I think the big thing for a lot of us, whether it's, you know, us professionally or spiritually or whatever, any aspect of these areas of our life that we want to grow in, it's like, if we want to grow, we just gotta just go for it. Just step through, take the first step. It's gonna be embarrassing. It's like, look back on any content creator's first post, it was horrible. Look back on Cody Ko's first like cringe video or like, you know, whatever video, they're horrible. But it's like, as they progress, as they go to that next level, it's like, dang, watch it go. Like, think about Tyler or Rivers' first marketing, you know, like campaigns that they were a part of. It's just like, think of those, your contributions, and how probably horrible they were. But now think about where you are today, or think of Telyn's first sales call. Oh, I imagine what that was like, bro, for your sake. Think of my first sales call or my first recruiting conversation. Like, but at the same time, it's like, look how far you've come in those departments. And it's the same thing for everything. So I want to kind of wrap it up. Does anybody have just kind of a closing thought on utilizing, maybe everybody just gives like 2 sentences of whether it's encouragement or thought or whatever, to kind of end how you guys would encourage students to go to that next level in any aspect of their life over the next 2-3 weeks?
Cam, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, I would say for me, like the if I could say one sentence, is trust the process and just get started. That's it. Like, just trust the process and get started. Start somewhere. That's like 5 sentences technically, but you get the point.
I agree with that too. Like, just trust the process, but also like, I think in a lot of people's minds, like, it's really easy to think about the no or the failure that's like coming up, and I think it just embrace it. Like, I forgot who said it recently, but someone said fail forward, and I really like honestly, like, take away the no. Like, I was like the DM someone, but I've done that before with like tons of things. When I want you to, I just email and usually it ends up in a no. But when it ends up in a yes, you like take that aspect of like, I'm gonna fail. Kind of just go for the things that you want. And you take that like what's the worst that could happen is you get no, but that's not even a big deal. Just not worrying about like what the possibility could be, but like just doing it, as Cameron said.
Yeah.
Get a plan, write it down, trust the process, go for it. I agree with all that. Like, it's so huge for you to just jump in to what you want to do, fail forward, go for it. I agree with everybody. It just makes so much sense. Just do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Do it.
Just do it.
Do
it.
Just do
Don't
it.
let today be today.
Either going to be Shia LaBeouf from Honey Boy or Tiger King for Halloween this year. For that
dude. No, you gotta be Shia LaBeouf from.
Okay, let him close out. We'll talk about that.
All
right. One of my all-time quotes is by Henry Ford, and it's "When you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." And I think a lot of it just starts with the mentality of like, if I want to put in the work, and if I want to see myself get to this point in my faith or in my career or in my fitness or in my finances or in my relationship with my parents, with my relationship with my wife, with relationship with girls, with any friendship, if I go in with the mindset of here's what I want to accomplish in it, then put out a plan, I have a good chance of hitting that. But if I go in with the mindset of, I don't think I can do this, you're probably right. And it starts with that mentality.
So good.
Cool, guys. Well, thank you for joining us tonight on this COVID cast. I appreciate it.
COVID
What you
Cast.
do? Yeah, is that a good? That's a decent name, right? COVID Cast.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cove Cast.
the Cove Cast. That works.
Cove Cast.
Yeah.
Get
The
old
mustache.
here, guys.
The
I just heard
mustache cast.
gunshots.
Ooh. Yeah. What's your neighborhood called? Isn't it just called Bridge?
No, it's literally called Gunshot Ridge. So
No, it's not. Right.
That is not the name.
Alrighty, y'all. Have a good night. All right.
guns on the river.
Safe. Don't get corona.